This is a short video on the Elenco multimeter. We'll be going over a few of the controls and understanding how to put signals in the system and how to measure things. So first thing, there's an on-off button here, green button at the top. Just push that on, you should see the display cycle. Depending on how you have the knob set, you'll also see what is being measured or what the knob is turned to up here. So right now it says, you might be able to read that, milliamps on top, or MA. That's because this dial in the center is turned to the amp setting, and it's on, in fact, the 200 milliamp scale. For the first lab, you'll be wanting to measure current sometimes and voltages other times. You'll see this section over here on the side is for measuring voltage. So here I've got it now turned to the 20 volt scale, which means the largest signals that would go in, or you can measure at 20 volts. And you can also see that there's a little V here telling you that you're measuring volts. Now actually, to hook up to the multimeter, you're going to use a couple of banana connectors. And for measuring voltages, if you're on this scale, you want to go into this COM port, COM, which is means common or ground. And then the other wire you want to attach, banana plug you want to attach to this plug on the right, which says volts, ohm, hertz. In fact, if you're on the volt scale, we've got it turned up here to measure resistance on the ohm scale. So for just demonstrating this, I'm just going to plug in to a voltage supply, which is off screen here. And if I turn that voltage supply on, we can see now that we have some voltage showing up on the display. I'm just going to turn the knobs, and I can adjust and see that voltage shows 3.63 volts. Now if I wanted to measure current coming out of this, I'm going to turn off the supply. If I want to measure current that's coming out of the source that I'm plugged into, let me just remove the leads so it's no longer connected. You notice that, again, there's a COM port, but over here there's a 10 amp plug and a milliamp plug. And I'm going to try to use, I'm going to go over here, go to the amp setting for measuring current. Now if I want to measure current, I can't use the two plugs I was using before, which was the volts and the common. I need to use always the common, but one of these two plugs over here. Let's start with a larger setting. I'll use this 10 amp plug, common, and 10 amp plug here, and then again turn on my supply. And I can still use, I'm going to actually switch over to this 10 amp plug. I'm going to switch over to 10 here. I can actually turn up the supply, and you see now I'm getting 0.15 amps through it. So key thing to realize is if I'm measuring current, I have to use the common in either this plug or the common in this plug. And actually for this lab, I'm going to turn the source down again, and I'm going to reconnect. Again, always go to the common, and goes to this milliamp plug. That's of course a more sensitive setting, and I'm going to turn on the supply, and I'm going to turn the 200 milliamp scale. You see that the display shows milliamps, and I'm getting a few milliamps. Let me just turn this up a little bit, see if I can get some current to flow. Oops, that's overload. That was too much. You don't want to do that too much, or you will blow the fuse out in the thing. So now you can see I'm getting about 89, 90 milliamps, and I can adjust my supply and change that number. Okay, so depending on whether you have large or small currents, you want to use the large 10 amp input or the milliamp input, and we generally recommend using the milliamp input. There are some other things. We are now sitting or measuring DC currents, and before we're looking at DC voltages, there's a button up here at the top which allows you to measure either DC, which is the straight line, or AC voltages, which is wavy line. If you push this in, like right now, you'll see an AC appear on the side and showing you've got no AC current. And that makes sense because we're hooked up to a DC supply. But if we wanted to measure AC currents, then we'd have to push that button in. And of course, it's also important to realize someone else may have pushed that button in already, and you may need to turn that off. If you see an AC over here for this first lab, then you would want to change that. So this is a very quick look at this multimeter. You're going to be using it in a bunch of labs here in Physics 271.